everyone. I'm Denise Garth, Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco, and you're listening to the Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast series. Follow along as I interview the best and brightest leaders in the insurance industry and insurtech landscape to bring you the latest in digital transformation, innovation, industry trends, challenges, and opportunities, as well as next-gen technologies. We use our experience to anticipate what's next without losing sight of what's now. Stay tuned to find out your next now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Future of Insurance podcast. And I am really excited today to have Shilpa Deshpande joining me on my podcast today. Shilpa, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. Great pleasure to be here.
Shilpa, I always like to have people talk about their background and your role and also our partnership. And I know that your title just recently changed to Head of Digital Products, and that's a really intriguing title. So why don't you give a little bit of background about yourself and Ambac and our partnership first?
Sure, of course. Might take a little bit longer to go through the background of Ambac as well as myself. So Ambac has recently undergone a huge transformation, and along with that, so has my career. Historically, Ambac has been a financial guarantee company. So we are a 50-year plus old company, but we started more as a municipal bond insurer. In 2017, when we had change in leadership, our CEO, Claude LeBlanc, he joined, and he had this vision of transforming Ambac into a specialty P&C platform. So we were a municipal bond insurance company, but today Ambac, the parent organization, is an insurance holding company, and that builds and buys specialty P&C insurance businesses. So in our P&C platform, there are two divisions. One's the insurance carrier division, and the other is a distribution division. And as you said, so as of now, my title is Head of Digital Products at Ambac, and what that encompasses, and I'll give you a little background of my journey per se. I've been at Ambac for 21 years, started in the development team in IT, in hardcore IT line of business. For bond insurance companies, there's no off-the-shelf policy admin or billing or claims or your reserving or any of these modules. It's nothing. So we had to build all of that from scratch. So that was my entry into the insurance world long time ago. Since then, the policies, the municipal bond insurance policies, are highly long dated policies, right? Compared to the P&C policies. So what that means is, next to underwriting, risk management and exposure management then becomes a very, very critical process. So I moved from IT into risk management. I managed asset-backed portfolio for the company until the financial crisis of 2008. And that was also a pivotal point for the company, well as me. Then I kind of progressed to creating a risk operations department. Fast forward now, what my main area of focus is basically standing up all of our P&C specialty insurance companies on the infrastructure and technology-driven infrastructure, right? So kind of bring that strategy and vision into play for the new company. So in a way, it's a fun, exciting job because unlike other P&C insurance companies, we have no baggage, right? So it's a green field. It's like I'm super excited in the world of this insurtech.
You have a really interesting background, Shilpa, particularly there at Ambac. I mean, starting out in IT and especially in the bond area, and then moving into other lines of business and looking at it from a risk management standpoint and a risk operations. You really have interesting perspective, both from a business operating model perspective, but also from a technology perspective. And I think that in your new role with this kind of greenfield, it really gives you, I think, a really great opportunity to do some really unique things. And I think when you and I talked about, it's really helped to kind of shape the strategy and execution that you're really doing. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
That's really true, because during this whole career journey and plus all these pivotal points at Ambac, one thing kind of started becoming extremely clear as technology grows, as our workforce progresses, right? That technology ends up to be a very key transformational driver into how the business operates, right? And a lot of companies don't end up bringing those two tightly together, right? So there is operations and operating models, and then there is technology that is, and at some point in time, they do end up working in silos. So one of the biggest focus point of mine was to make sure that we have this tech driven operating model, even right from the beginning. So the way the people operate, the way the operational processes are set up, the end to end operational effectiveness then just becomes highly important. And on the execution front, right, picking the right technology partner, devising the operating model with the partner, and making sure that operations, technology, everything eventually gets aligned appropriately. And then you kind of put your agile and continuous improvement and all of those other best, execution practices over your strategy that you want to bring operations and tech constantly tied together forward. So that's been the focus.
Something you said there, I was just in a conversation a couple of days ago with somebody, and they were talking about the mistake that they had made, that when they were implementing a new set of technology, a new set of core, they tried to do everything that they've been doing for the last 20 and 30 years. And so they highly customized their implementation. And now they're facing a situation that everything's changed in the market, and what the operating model or the operating processes, those really are not relevant any longer, but now it's really impeding them. And now they have to kind of look and say, what do we have to do differently? And you're really taking that greenfield approach and saying, how do we really look at a modern operating model and processes around that?
Yeah, I mean, even simple things like submission triaging or even like your clearance, right? If people have been doing a certain way, you just have to have a different lens to look at these processes. And that's how we have been really implementing our technology.
So, what did you look for in a partner to really help you execute on this strategy, and why Majesco?
So definitely maturity of the platform, which was very important to us. We didn't, given that we are greenfield, we didn't want to have to really explain insurance business to some of the tech partners that we looked into, because there are technologies you can take and build, and we didn't want to be in that business. Stability, long-term vision was very important for us because, as I said, the tech-driven operating model is something that I truly believe in. And so a partner who can, the willingness to work on like a good challenge, right? And challenging the operating model along with it, right? Because that's what we were looking in a partner. Of course, robust product development, having a user council, like when we did our RFPs and discussed with you, people still didn't have good user councils. And so I'm like, okay, so how do you really build your product based on user feedback? Like, where are those loops that are coming back to you, and how are you then propping up your products? So all these were very important considerations for us. And of course, along with that, all the functionality.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things that we talked about that kind of ties into that, when you said you were looking for somebody who was really kind of forward thinking, had a vision, and would be constantly enhancing the product based on new technologies coming to market, we talked about that technology is not a one and done approach. Just because you get an implementation done, it doesn't mean that there's not more that's going to be coming, and that there's not new technologies coming to market, and that there's not new risk and the need for products. So you need to kind of grow with that technology to avoid technology debt, and the ability to upgrade and the ability to take those new enhancements is so critical. Talk about that and how that has helped shape your focus at Ambac and your involvement in providing kind of feedback as to what you see needed in the product.
That's a good point, Denise. Actually, tech debt is a big issue, especially
Yep.
for new entrants in the space, right? So even if, as I said, Ambac's a 50-year-old company, but still we consider ourselves more as a good, vibrant startup kind of cultural attitude towards building technology and infrastructure and operations, etc. And then when to invest and how much to invest becomes highly tricky question to solve. And I would say giving you an analogy over here, right? Focusing on bread and butter first and then go for fillet. Make sure, but when you are thinking of fillet, the point is you have to think of fillet, right? Before you, and have to think what kind of wine pairing you need with your fish or with your main course. And therefore, planning is extremely key to make sure that you have a good eye on your tech investments or your resources, right? People who are going to support your tech ops, that's going to be a key consideration. Being able to envision the future state, the roadmap, and how to get there. But along with that, especially when it comes to tech investments and tech debt, it's the outlining of all the triggers, right? Because you have your business plan, the business has a vision. You have to take all of those trigger points and able to tie your strategic initiatives in which you're going to invest, right? So that's the key at different trigger points, how much you're going to invest and in what kind of technologies are you going to invest at that point. And I think the other big consideration is the right timing. You don't want to be thinking of investments once the tsunami hits, right? So that critical mass for your business to grow, your revenue to grow, and at what point in time are you going to say, now I need this funding? And to get that funding from senior management and your board is going to be your key. So you have to prepare for that and not let the business kind of just pour on you. That's how I think it's. But at the end of the day, you have to have a good grip on the ratio of your investment to revenue, and from a tech platform perspective, you have to sow your right seeds, right, in the way you're going to build your tech.
So when you kind of think about that platform and the technology, I think it really comes to life in the specialty market, which you guys are heavily in. And that specialty market is growing so fast, bringing out new products because we got such a different types of risk and changing types of risk and different expectations that it highlights this continuous innovation needed in the market. It's been one of the hottest areas the last number of years because of that. Quite frankly, I don't see it stopping. So talk about how you're looking at this market and the implementation of the Majesco solution to help you advance this effort to really kind of drive that speed to market and bring innovative products to market. Kind of ties to your title, head of digital products.
As I said earlier, right? So what we did currently with the Majesco platform is we put the solution for, I call it under a line, and that line is basically a line between innovation, AI, risk evaluation, and risk assessment, and all of that. And the below the line is all about making sure all your books and records are in place, your accounting is in place, your reporting is in place, your billing. So the underlying insurance operations or basic operations of policy recognition, policy earnings. And so we first went ahead and built the base platform. And now what I'm super excited about, so this, don't get me wrong, I was not that I was not excited about the first phase of the build. It was exciting, but at the end of the day, I was like, okay, come on, we got our premium, we got it recognized. Now let me jump to the more exciting, the real work of the digital product head to push the product forward. And the next thing on my mind is more about building a highly intuitive and intelligent underwriting workbench and a risk evaluation platform, because that's going to be the differentiator. And of course, along with that, pairing it with a highly modular or a highly responsive rating model, right? So those are going to be my next set of focus areas.
It never stops, does it?
No. And that's the exciting part of it.
It is. We had this really interesting conversation. Regulatory changes are always going to be there. They're always continuous, but it can create this kind of, I'm going to put in quotes, forms hell. How does technology help address this pain? And what's your experience with that?
And my prior comment of that, I'm so excited for the next phase of this digital product. And I really didn't want to talk about forms, but anyway, let's talk about that. It's the forms aspect that one of the reasons that I'm excited about on the forms side is more about, and we are still in getting our feet wet in there, is to see how AI could help. Because there are two aspects. The way I see it is there are these bunch of regulatory forms that keep coming, the changes that keep coming, and then there is this process for us, as in the companies, is to really understand which changes are we going to adopt which we have to adopt, which we can rephrase or adopt it later. Like, so there are so many of these decisions that we have to make depending on the type of these regulatory forms. So I'm really hoping that as of now, we still have to go through the regular process, but I think the next level on that is where I'm hoping Gen AI could step in and help us in evaluation process. Because then, once the evaluation process, because I think that is a pretty human resource consuming process.
Yeah, great idea. And that kind of steps into this topic of Gen AI, hottest topic in the industry right now. But one of the things that you and I talked about is that the excitement of Gen AI, there's a lot of possibility there to really help things like we just talked about with forms. But even more importantly, it's going to help address a talent issue that we're facing as an industry with the growing retirement and the knowledge and expertise drain that is happening in insurers. And it's going to be difficult hiring in people with that knowledge and expertise. And this is where technology and Gen AI in particular can help translate that knowledge and expertise digitally within the organization and help these people really get up to speed. Do you see that also as another really exciting area that could really help accelerate growth and operational excellence?
I truly believe it is. I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking on this whole rating question, right? Actuaries want something, the underwriters want something else, and then the actuaries recommend something. The underwriters want to override that, give some discounts, not give discounts. That they are making so many decisions, right? Which are based on their expertise because that's what they're good at, right? The way to capture those decisions, the decision-making process, and then taking that decision-making process, creating models over it, right? I mean, taking all of that data and then becoming more predictive from a perspective of, okay, how would a group of underwriters rate it versus how would these group of underwriters rate it versus how the losses rated by these policies with this underwriter, how did those losses come across versus how did these underwriters rate it and then how did the losses come across. So bringing all that data together, being able to analyze and then being able to come up with a more appropriate quote or a rate, right? So the dilemma between rate and price, and we were discussing, and I was super excited that the large language models or any kind of these models would be able to really take that piece and help the new generation.
It's going to be fun to see in a year or two where we are as an industry and really accelerating the use of all of this intelligence in a different way to really help us run the business differently.
Right. It's going to be exciting. And again, a lot of these are use cases and scenarios that we still have to test out, and we have to be able to prove them, right? So that's going to be the challenging aspect.
As 2024 unfolds, we just talked about both of us going through and year-end results and all of that kind of stuff, and we're almost all at the end of Q1. What excites you the most from a business and technology perspective here in 2024?
I think, from an Ambac perspective, it's a growth year, and that's always an exciting cycle of a company to be in. And as the business grows, so does tech. So does the tech requirements grow. And we want to be more holding hands with the business to grow rather than taking a backseat and growing. So it's all growth, a lot of work.
Yeah, you've got the foundation in place to be able to do that kind of rapid growth, which is really the exciting part.
Yes.
I always like to end my podcast with the same question. Question is if you could use one word or phrase to describe the future of insurance, what would it be and why? It's been fascinating to hear everybody's different perspectives, and it's really an interesting combination of words. So what do you say, Shilpa?
Wow. I wish I can do something more creative or more innovative, but I have a very, very simple word, and that's transformation. That's been a key all along. And I always go by this one quote by Charles Darwin, because it's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. I truly feel that right now we are in a great, exciting tech advancement phases or period. The more companies can look from a transformation lens and try to engage in their operating models with innovative technologies, I think that kind of a transformation wave is upon us.
Well, it is going to be an exciting time ahead. I recently just told somebody, and my career, I think this is one of the most dynamic periods in the insurance industry, just from a lot of different both business and technology facets. There's just a lot of change and opportunity out there.
Yeah, I mean, the products are getting, I don't want to use the word crazier, but they are getting complex. They are getting very innovative on the business product side. And at the same time, the consumers are getting very savvy as well, right?
Yeah.
And there are technologies that can assess risks very fast. And so all of that combining is an exciting time for insurance.
Yeah, it is. Well, Shilpa, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and to chat with you. And I'm looking forward to our regular chats over the coming year. Thanks so much for your time and for your great insights. But most of all, thanks for your leadership and the great accomplishment you guys have really done. And with your transformation initiative, your new foundation, you guys are just poised for some great 2024 and beyond.
Thank you, Denise. Always a pleasure to talk to you. I get to learn so much from you and it's been exciting.
All right. Well, thank you, Shilpa.
Thanks. Take care.
That's it for this week's episode of Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast. Subscribe to our market leading podcast series available wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for listening and be sure to tune in the next time.